Town Clerk, are we ready?
Yeah.
All right. I call the regular meeting of the Milliken Board of Trustees for September 26, 2018 to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the Town Clerk please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Trustee Burak?
Here.
Trustee Smith?
Here.
Trustee Trailer?
Here.
Trustee Ehrlich?
Here.
Trustee Wakeman?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Austin?
Here.
Mayor Woodcock is absent.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
How about if we have a first?
So move.
First move.
Cool. Now we can have that second.
Second.
Okay.
All righty. Citizens' comment.
No.
Whoops, we
Swear in the
missed
new chief.
Okay.
Oh, I thought we could go right to citizens' comment. Chief Garcia, could you please? Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Austin and members of the board, tonight I want to welcome the newest member of the Milliken family and newest police officer. His name is Amos Flores. He was raised in Greeley, Colorado, graduated from Greeley West High School, class of 2010, former police officer for the non-police department, and also a former patrol deputy for the Weld County Sheriff's Office. He's a father of two boys, Xavier and Anthony, which are sitting right there. He enjoys spending spare time with family, attending country music concerts and staying active in sports, and he roots for the home teams, Broncos, Rockies. So, Amos. Welcome, man.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome. Nice to meet you. Welcome.
Thank you.
I, Amos Flores,
I, Amos Flores,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support
that I will support
and enforce
and enforce
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and of the state of Colorado
and of the state of Colorado
and the ordinances
and the ordinances
of the town of Milliken,
of the town of Milliken,
and shall faithfully perform,
and shall faithfully perform
to the best of my abilities,
to the best of my abilities
the duties of a police officer
the duties of police officer
for the town of Milliken.
for the town of Milliken.
Thank you.
Nah. I'm sorry?
Aw.
Oh. Okay. Now, everyone, since I was so excited for those citizens' comments, this is the point in the meeting where the public is invited to address the town board on any item except agenda items for which there is a public hearing. Public comment on public hearing items will occur during the scheduled public hearings. All comments should be directed to the town board. There is a 3-minute limit per speaker. Speakers, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. Would anybody like to speak?
Reed Hobler, 800 Mill Iron Road, Milliken, Colorado. I'm here really on behalf of the Front Range Fire Rescue Board of Directors. I'm on the board over there, and we haven't given you guys an update on what's going on in a while. I know when Lois Ann was on the board, she kind of went back and forth, and I figured I should come over and give you guys kind of an update as far as what's going on, and that way you guys know. So, with that said, earlier this year, about a month or so ago, we had a good working session with the Johnstown Board of Directors, and we would love to do that with you guys as well. Again, just so we can have a relationship with each other. We also have renewed our contract with American, or with our ambulance service. So we have a new 5-year contract. Again, ambulances are both here in Milliken and over in Johnstown. First contract went in place 5 years ago, and it's been wonderful. We're working with UC Health, right?
Yes.
So that is in place for another 5. We are working on an IGA, an updated IGA that we want between the fire district and the towns, and it's both towns as well as the county for that matter. The one that we have in place with Milliken was put in place in 1986, so it's over 30 years old, and it's probably time to get that updated. So we've already sent a draft over to town staff, and I know they're going back and forth. And so that's something that if we have a working session, we can talk about and make sure we're all on the same page there. We recently renegotiated our IGA with the school district as well, and they gave us a 30-year lease on our training building. I know you guys have seen, I know we've had staff over there taking pictures and stuff like that. So we're using that. On that note, it was a concern of town staff about water going back into the water lines that we use, and you guys should all know we don't spray any water there. All the water that's used there is charging lines, and then that way the firefighters can get used to pulling a line through a house. So every time you see us train over there, about 100 gallons, give or take, is all that's ever used. But going back to the fire hydrant, on that note, we have out of our pocket, even though fire hydrants are owned by the water district, out of our pocket, in order to try to help ease some tension or ease some concerns, we've put, I think, $18,000 worth of new fire hydrants in. One at the corner, right in our parking lot, because that one hasn't worked for a while, and then also a new non-backflow one, which again is not required by any laws, but trying to, help out with water. We put that, or we're going to put that in too. So you guys will see some digging up of some fire hydrants and stuff over the next month or so. Let's see, what else have we got going on? Going forward, as I mentioned, we have the IGA. We also just finished up our Nexus study, which is, for those of you that don't know, it's required if we decide that we want to charge fees for houses to be built and stuff like that, for us to review them. The fire district never has done anything. All of the surrounding districts charge impact fees, that's what they're called. And so we're looking into that. Again, this would be district-wide. It would cover Weld County, Johnstown, Milliken, anything that falls within our district. So expect to hear something from us about that. And yeah, so again, just to update quick, let you guys kind of know what's going on. We don't have a lot of big things going on often, but if we do, I'll try to stop in and just give you guys an update, just so, again, you guys know what's going on with us. And I try to read through your minutes, so I have a vague idea of what you guys are doing, but I would encourage a working session between our two boards sometime in the not-so-distant future. 10, 15 minutes, worst case, just so we can all meet each other and chat and ask each other questions if we have any. So, that's it. Thank you very much.
I do have a question for you.
Can we ask now, or is it just do comments?
No, we can ask questions.
Sure.
So you've got a contract with UC Health,
Yes.
and you have an ambulance stationed over here with a couple of
Station.
paramedics.
Yes.
Okay. So since the ambulance is here anyway, when we have events in town, UC Health wants to charge us for like $500 to have the ambulance out there with the paramedics that are here anyway. What can be done about that?
I'm happy to, yeah, Chief's not here. I wasn't sure if Chief Bateman was coming tonight or not. I'm happy to go back and ask. I don't have an answer for you, but we can ask and see.
If we're already, our taxes are already paying for that ambulance to be here, yeah.
Yeah, and
No.
the fire district owns the ambulance, UC Health owns the people.
So we're paying for an ambulance that you already own.
Yeah, so Front Range owns the actual ambulance,
Paying for staff.
so, but
I
it is
was told
staffed
we were
by
paying
UC
for the
Health.
ambulance too.
So, but again, I'm happy to go back and ask, because I don't know all the
Uh-huh.
intricacies, and we'll see.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. I know it's not supposed to be too interactive, but any other easy questions I can answer?
That's okay.
Maggie, you go ahead. No, go.
Thanks very much for coming and updating us
Oh, you're welcome.
tonight.
Yeah.
It's good to have contact back and forth. On the $18,000 that you
Yes.
spent on
Fire hydrants.
fire hydrants, is that district-wide or?
No, these are, so again, and I'm not the best person to answer, but per lawyers and everything, the water districts own the fire hydrants. Town staff has talked with the department staff about a concern about backflow from the training area and what we were going to do about it. And realistically, we could have said, well, nothing. But again, wanting to have that good working together relationship, Chief Cavillo did some research and he found a fire hydrant that has a backflow preventer in it. And so we said, okay, we will take money out of our budget and replace that. So the only ones we're replacing are 2 fire hydrants here in Milliken. We're doing the one that's, I think, technically on our property right at the corner of Broad and, I don't even know what that, yeah, Broad and Irene, I think. Because that one hasn't been functioning for 10 or 15 years. And so we said, well, let's just replace that because we ideally could draw some water out of it. But the bigger one was the one at the training facility, and wanting to help you guys and make sure that, you guys don't have any more issues with water. And so that one, I want to say was 10,000 of the 18,000, so it was an extra couple $1,000s to get the one with the backflow. But again, only those 2 hydrants, and just purely to try to help with the water situation and make sure that the town was comfortable with what we were doing at the training facility.
Thanks for that clarification.
Oh, you're welcome.
In the past, what money has been allocated towards fire hydrants, do you know?
Through
Through the water
us?
district?
Oh, through the water district, I have no idea. 'Cause
Are there
that's-
other hydrants that you know of that need to be replaced or?
There are so this is a interesting topic. All of the fire hydrants in all of our district, again, are owned by the water district. So the ones in the county are owned by Thompson River, and Johnstown owns theirs, and Milliken owns theirs. The water district is responsible for testing those and finding out, do they need to be replaced? At least that's our understanding of it. I know our staff and town staff has gone back and forth on that, but again, the fire hydrants are owned by the town or by the water district, so the water district should be testing those. I couldn't tell you when the last time they were tested was. I know we don't test them because that's not in our IGA, but
Okay.
so, yeah.
Sounds like we'll need to follow up
Sounds
on
like
that.
we need a work session.
Well, and that would be a great thing to talk about in a work session, absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So do you want to propose some dates to us, or do you want us to propose dates to you? How do we move forward on a work session?
that is a wonderful idea. I would, it's not my meeting here, but I'm happy to go and tell my staff to talk with your staff and see if we can come up with some dates, or if you want to reverse it the other way around, that's fine.
Okay.
I think that's just fine.
Okay.
Just might
Maybe
walk away
the work
without
session
anything.
where we talk about the water department budget might be a good one to have them come in right at the beginning. The work sessions on the budget are probably going to be a little longer, probably be starting a lot of those at 4 o'clock,
Okay,
just so we get through them, so.
that sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions?
No.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I wish I could stay, but I have another appointment, so you all have a good meeting.
Good night.
Thank you.
Any other citizens' comments? All right, public comment is now closed. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Is there any discussion on the minutes of our September 12th meeting? If acceptable, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for August 12th, 2018 Board of Trustee meeting.
Move to approve.
Second it?
Vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Okay. Let's see. One moment, folks. I'll be with you. Now we're going to do the acknowledgement of the paid list of bills. Does anybody have any questions? No, I have none this time. Shocking as it may be. Okay. All right, so,
Move to approve.
Second it?
all in favor?
Aye.
We're done. Okay, let's move down to the Town Administrator's Report. Mr. Wiest,
Yeah,
happy birthday, and what do you have for us?
No more birthday cake. Couple things. The RO water plant, the contract with Stanek to install the bioreactor at the RO treatment plant has finally been signed. They've delivered their performance bond, so we've given them a notice to proceed. So the clock started running on their 250-day time limit as of today. That should be up and running for next summer's irrigation season, which it's going to be more than just supplementing the irrigation. It is going to be potable drinking water, which should reduce by a couple hundred acre feet what we're getting from Greeley or Central Well. Also, the street work is in progress in town. The patching and the crack sealing has been going on. Because there was 3 different patching crews and the streets were painted and marked off, it was really hard to set a schedule when a patching crew would get to this particular point. The microsurfacing is going to start on Tuesday, and once we have a firm schedule, the contractor will be notifying 20 or 48 hours in advance where they're going to be. The street will be barricaded. They'll knock on the doors the morning of the work in case anybody has to get their car out. Even though with the microsurfacing, they'll be able to drive on it within an hour after it's laid down. But with the prep work and everything, it's going to be an inconvenience in front of houses for a couple hours versus a day and a half if we had done just the slurry seal. So we're anxious for that to get started and keeping our fingers crossed that they beat any weather conditions that might slow that down. That's all I have, Mayor.
Pro Tem. Thank you.
Can I ask a
Tonight to the
question?
mayor.
Yes?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So they're being notified 48 hours before? How are they being notified?
I think with the door hanger,
Okay,
and then of course the streets will have the barricades.
right.
No parking on this block, such and such date.
And we're also going to put something on our website and Facebook page too.
As soon as we get a schedule, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Any other questions? All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing on the consent agenda, so to prevent from boring you to death, we'll just skip that little speech and go right to the action agenda. We have approval of the 2017 audit financial statements, at which our Finance Director, Courtney Diller, is joining us for this bit of fun.
Yes,
Yay.
I think we're all relieved that the 2017 financials are done. And with us tonight is Randy Watkins from Anton Collins Mitchell, that is our audit firm for this year.
I'm not sure if this is going to be more or less boring than the consent agenda might have been, but I'm Randy Watkins. I'm a partner with Anton Collins Mitchell. We were the firm that was engaged to perform the audit for the town. And so thank you for allowing me to be here tonight to present the financial statements. Before I even get started, though, I do want to thank Courtney and her crew and Molly for their efforts in helping us get through the audit. It is no small task to change auditors, for one thing, and then also to deal with us throughout the entire audit process, all the while trying to do their daily duties as well. So I do appreciate their efforts. There should be two documents that you have in front of you. One was distributed ahead of time, the set of financial statements, which I'll go through fairly quickly, but the other one that you got tonight is the audit wrap document, and it's just the final communication. It'll tell you kind of how the audit went, what we found, and all those types of things. So I'll go through that first, and then we'll go through the financial statements, and feel free to stop me as I'm going through these with any questions you might have. I tend to move fairly quickly, so just stop me if you have any questions. So in the audit wrap document, we'll skip past the cover letter and the discussion outline and start with the page that's at the top, status of our audit. It's page 3. It says here at the top that we've substantially completed our audit. All that means is that we have to get a signed management rep letter, and then of course you'll have to approve the financial statements as presented tonight, and those will be the final steps. There's a few minor changes that came out of our internal quality control process that we're making, and Molly's helping us with those. But we should be in a good position, I think, tomorrow to go ahead and issue and release and get those off to the state. The audit was performed in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States. The objective of our audit was to obtain reasonable assurance, not absolute assurance. All that means is that we take the population of transactions that happened during the year, draw a sample from that those transactions, test that sample, and then from the results of that test work, draw conclusions on the rest of the population. So we don't test every single transaction that happened during the year, even though it might feel like it. The scope of the work that we performed is substantially unchanged from what we would have communicated earlier on. You would have received a similar communication that would have been called the audit planning document. Nothing happened as a result of the work that we performed that caused us to change our audit approach. We do expect to issue an unmodified opinion. A lot of times that's referred to as a clean opinion. That's what you're looking for, so that's a good thing. The long paragraph there just tells you what our responsibility is with respect to other information contained in the financial statements, so the MD&A and then the budgetary comparison information. We do review and reconcile that information in the financial statements, but in some cases we don't issue any opinion on it. I already mentioned that we received full cooperation from the folks at the town, so all records that we requested were made available to us. We had no issues there. Those are those last two bullet points. So next page, results of our audit. The first footnote in the financial statements, which we'll go through, describes the significant accounting policies and procedures. Nothing changed from last year to this year. There were no changes to significant estimates. Estimates are inherent within the financial statements. We didn't identify any changes there. We do what's called a risk-based audit approach. So we identify the areas that we consider to be higher risk, and that's where we devote most of our attention. So risk a lot of times would be governed by if there are poor controls over that particular area, if it's governed by complicated accounting rules, or if there are significant dollar amounts or volume of transactions. So the areas that we primarily focused on were revenue recognition, just making sure that the various sources of revenue are being recognized appropriately, accounts receivable, and making sure that those are realizable. Capital assets, obviously those are big dollar amounts, so we're going to spend some time on that. Debt obligations, making sure you're in accordance with any of the covenants that might exist within those debt obligations. Evaluation of going concern is typically not an issue with governments, but we are required to address it. Estimates, you don't have a lot of really complicated estimates that we have to work through, but we do spend some time on that as well. And then pensions are always an issue, just complex calculations that go into the calculation of the pension liability, and then just our test work over the inputs that are used to determine that value. Next page, results of our audit. Happy to report there were no adjusting journal entries, no past adjusting journal entries. So we were provided with a few client-provided adjusting journal entries. So after we got the trial balance, there were some adjustments that were made, but nothing that we discovered as a result of our audit work. So great job on the part of the finance department on that. We do complete what's called a disclosure checklist as part of the preparation of the financial statements, and just making sure that all of the required disclosures are included in there, so we have confidence that the quality of the town's financials are there. So good. Next page, page 6, internal control of financial reporting. As part of the audit, we do obtain an understanding of the control environment at the town, but it's really for the purpose of designing our audit approach. We don't issue an opinion on the internal control environment, but we did not identify any control deficiencies that we consider to be material weaknesses. So really nothing to report there. There were some minor comments made during the audit, but nothing particular. So another A+. Next page, other required communications. I already mentioned that there was no change in our planned audit approach. Information obtained from those charged with governance. As part of the audit, we do make inquiries of town board members, and nothing came out of those inquiries that we think warrants your attention. We weren't required to obtain any specialized skills in order for us to be able to complete the audit. We were able to do that all in-house. We're not aware of any consultations with other auditors or accountants. We did evaluate any relationships that existed and didn't identify anything that wasn't disclosed to us or that should be disclosed that wasn't. We didn't have any disagreements with managements. We didn't encounter any significant difficulties. And then, as I mentioned, at the end, we do obtain a representation letter from management, just putting into writing those oral representations that are made throughout the audit. Next page, independence communication. As your independent auditors, we are required to be independent in both fact and appearance, and this is just an affirmative statement to that effect. And then there's several pages that follow that are just new accounting guidance that may or may not affect the town. Most notably, the other post-employment benefits, which I don't believe, based on what we've done so far, that you have anything to worry about there. But we are, as we're starting to do this with some of our school districts, we are discovering that there might be plans that could qualify that we might need to evaluate, but it's unlikely based on the work that we've done so far. So, any questions on that document before I go into the financial statements?
Back on page 3 or 4, you said you're going to release this on page 3, the financial statements on September 30th? That's a Sunday.
Prior to, well, yeah, prior to, that's the deadline.
Oh, prior
so
to,
it's,
okay.
Yeah, we'll actually issue probably tomorrow.
Got it.
I think so. I mean, I think we should be through everything by tomorrow, so.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, in the financial statements, I tend to move through these fairly quickly as well. So the audit opinion, which is on our letterhead, says ACM at the top. The first paragraph describes what we're auditing, the individual components that we're issuing an opinion on. Management's responsibilities, the next paragraph. Our responsibilities, the couple paragraphs after that. At the bottom of that first page is our actual audit opinion. So that's where we state that we were able to satisfy ourselves that the financial statements are materially accurate in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States. The next page, that first section, required supplementary information. So this is covering the MD&A, the pension-related schedules, and then the budgetary comparisons for the general fund and any major special revenue funds. And then other information would cover any of the other budgetary comparison data. In the required supplementary information, we do disclaim an opinion on that because a lot of it contains forward-looking information that we really can't audit. And then other information, we do issue what's called an in relation to opinion. So we're able to reconcile that data to the financial statements that were issued. There are several pages of MD&A. I'm going to skip past it, but I do encourage you to read through it. It is, it's comparative, so you have prior year information in there. And it does add some color, just descriptions of describing how things change from one year to the next. So I do encourage you to read it, but for purposes of tonight, we'll go ahead and skip past it. The statement of net position, this is the government-wide statement, so this covers the entire town. It includes governmental activities, business-type activities, and your component unit, the Milliken Housing Authority. It's a discretely presented component unit, so this is really the only place where you'll see any real information on that. There's some disclosures in the footnotes as well, but you don't receive full disclosures on that because it is a separate legal entity, but it is part of the town as a discretely presented component unit. These financial statements are on the full accrual method and economic resources measurement focus. And so what that means is it includes all current and long-term assets and liabilities. So you'll have capital assets on here, the the pension information is on here, the long-term debt, those types of things are on these statements, and that'll make sense when we get to the fund financial statements because they're not. So you can see at the end of the year, the net position in governmental activities is about $19.4 million. Business type activities is $32.6 million for a total of $51.9. You have a positive net position also in the component unit. The next page, actually the next couple pages, are the statement of activity. So this is the income statement for the town as a whole. Same measurement focus, same accounting or accrual basis. It's organized between programs, and so like the different programs within the governmental activities and the specific business type activities, and then any revenues that are intended to offset those expenses. So governmental activities are primarily funded through property tax collections, so you'll see that all of them, they do have some revenues that offset those costs, but the majority of the costs are offset by those property tax collections and things like that. Whereas the business type activities, the intention there is that the revenues generated from the charges for services will cover the cost. And so you'll see that they actually are producing income. So the second page of that document, you'll see that the governmental activities improved the net position during the year by about 1.6 million. Business type activities improved by about 3.8 million for a total of about 5.5. So overall, you are improving your position year over year, which is good. And same with the component unit. So the next few pages are the governmental funds, and so the balance sheet, this is the balance sheet for the governmental funds, but this is on the current economic resources measurement focus and modified accrual. So here you won't see any capital assets, you won't see any pension-related accounts, and the long-term debt is also excluded from these. Again, you've got a positive fund balance in each of these funds. The unassigned fund balance compared to your annual expenditures, you're a little over half a year, so you're in a great position there. If you go to the next page, here's where you can go from the fund financial statements to the government-wide financial statements and see all those reconciling items coming back onto the statement of net position. So you can see the capital assets and the pension-related disclosures, and then also the long-term debt. Page 15, this is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. So this is the income statement for the fund financial statements. Here you can see that all of the funds except for the combining, so these are, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned earlier, these are organized by major funds. You've got major funds, which is there's a quantitative threshold that they have to reach in order for them to be a major fund. And then anything that's not gets grouped in the back of the financial statements in a combining set of financial statements that pull forward to this other governmental funds. So you've got a minor decline in fund balance in those, but overall you improved your fund position by about 800,000. And then again, there's a reconciliation that takes you from the change in fund balance to the change in net position that you saw in those earlier financials. And then the next few pages just show you the individual fund information for the business type activities, showing you the sewer, water, trash, and stormwater. There are no reconciling items because these are on the same measurement focus and accrual basis of accounting as the government-wide. So it's pretty straightforward. You can literally carry that right column all the way to the front of the financial statements for both the statement of net position and the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. And everything up until page 19 has been on some form of accrual. Page 19 is the statement of cash flows. So this, you can see where the sources and uses of cash are, organized between operating activities, non-capital financing activities, any capital-related financing activities, and then investing activities. And in all cases, in all funds, you improved your cash position during the year. It's also a good thing. And then we're into the footnotes. As I mentioned, there were no changes to the summary of significant accounting policies. You didn't adopt any new accounting principles or policies during the year. So we'll skip past those. Here, the footnotes that I typically will focus on are the long-term debt, which starts on page 34. You didn't issue any new debt during the year. And so you can kind of see how those bonds and revenue bonds have been paid off during the year, the balances at the end of the year, and then at the top of the next page, you can see future maturities, so you know when each of those specific debt instruments are being paid off over time. At the bottom of page 35 is where you go into the pension-related disclosures. Here you didn't have dramatic changes from one year to the next, and so you can see the balances in those are fairly insignificant. You've got some deferred outflows and deferred inflows of resources related to those. And then as those get amortized out over the future 5 years. And that's kind of all I really typically will cover in here, unless you guys have any questions. I know that these were produced a little bit ahead of time, so I don't know if you've had time to go through them and come up with any questions you might want to ask, but that's typically all I would cover.
This audit seemed to take a little bit longer than usual. Did you run into some sort of difficulty?
There are a couple things. You know, as I mentioned early on, changing auditors is no small task. We probably asked for things differently than the predecessor did. There were some delays initially, and I think part of it was maybe communication, but when we showed up initially, some information that we really needed to be able to get started wasn't ready yet. And we tend to pack our busy season fairly tight, and so having to reschedule that time, and so we got to a point where we were kind of picking up and putting down quite a bit,
I see.
and that just causes delays, and so.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Yeah, in defense of the auditors, you've seen our staff, Courtney and Molly. In
Yeah.
the spring, we did do 2 bond issues and the DOLA grant, which got us $900,000. So they were quite busy. The other thing I'd like to point out, that along with my birthday making me feel older,
Yes.
Randy's dad was my first auditor in Greeley back in 1971 with Ruffin. So, yeah,
Is there anybody you don't know?
probably not.
Just wondering. I have no further questions, thank you. Anything else?
Just to take that, I do expect that next year it'll go much smoother. I think that we'll get you on the calendar earlier. We'll make sure that we communicate earlier on. We also have developed a timeline that we're using with all of our clients now that we'll meet ahead of time, probably sometime here in the fall, and we'll go through working backwards from the desired deadline and all those milestones that really need to be met in order for us to be able to meet that. So I believe that going forward it will be much better. So.
Okay.
Any other questions?
On the copies that we got, could you say again why they're draft copies? What will change from what we're looking at tonight to what report goes in tomorrow?
Primarily the removal of the draft watermark and then me putting my signature on there, but there are some edits, some minor cleanup edits that we've already produced all those and given them to Molly, and so she's working through those and probably have those ready tomorrow. Nothing substantive, nothing that would have changed anything in the presentation. It's really just there's like, if you notice, there's some formatting issues that are kind of throughout that we needed to clean up, and so we have, internally we have, so these were produced or prepared by Pinnacle, and then we reviewed the initial draft, we provided comments, we provided some additional disclosure examples, then we got a second draft, and then that went through kind of an internal team review and tick and tie, and then after we've kind of felt pretty good about it, then it goes to our internal QC process, which involves someone at the manager or above level who is not associated with the engagement at all, reads through them just to see if we missed something, because as you know, when you get into the weeds, you start to become blind to the things that those types of things, and so they'll typically identify some things that we need to clean up, and then our last step is what we call a proofer's checklist, which is just anyone in the firm reads through it, makes sure we didn't miss any grammatical errors or anything like that, looks for justification within the footnotes. It's just more of a aesthetic review, so that's where we have some changes that we're making, so nothing substantive.
Thanks for that explanation.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
Move to approve the 2017 financial statements and submit a copy of those statements to the state of Colorado.
Second.
Town clerk, can we have a vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Trustee Ehrlich?
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman?
Yes.
Trustee Trailer?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Burak?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Austin?
Yes.
Motion passed.
All righty, is there any other business to come before the board tonight?
Thank you, have a good night. Happy birthday.
Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it is 7:09, and we are now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
You.